And CBS News Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues following all of this for us and joins us with the latest. And then to these federal charges that he now faces, what specifically is it that we're discussing?
Well, you listen to the case there.
Yeah.
It is really remarkable the amount of evidence that prosecutors say they have as they build this case.
At this point, it certainly feels almost open and shut.
Oh,
here.
wow. It really is how they, you read these court documents and you see the video evidence. You see the cell phone video that they're talking about where he's, what they believe is sort of planning, prepping, not really training, maybe that's going too far, but he exploded a pipe bomb. Mm-hmm. So this is the evidence that prosecutors and investigators believe they have that shows that this was a process for this man. He was practicing, prepping, and then they have him leaving his home, going through the Lincoln Tunnel. They have him on video. So you just see the amount of police work that has gone into this investigation over these last few days. And it is remarkable the amount of evidence that they are now presenting here against this suspect.
The evidence does, though, seem to, at this point, still speak to a lone wolf attack of a sort here. It does not seem to suggest, other than watching videos, I mean, he was buying these things on eBay using his name, his own name. He was not looking perhaps to cover his tracks. With regard to his social media, meanwhile, what do we know about what that may be telling investigators?
Well, look, they've been scrubbing cell phones. They've been looking through computer activity as they do typically in these cases. And what they're finding is that there was some online activity there. There was a YouTube account. And so, yeah, as they look to see whether there are any links to these direct links to these terrorist organizations, what they are at least finding is that there is this inspiration, okay, that we've heard so much. It's become this term that we've heard so much in these investigations. Are these suspects inspired by this radical ideology? And at the very least, they have that in this case, right? They have the fact that, in their view, he was praising in these handwritten notes, this notebook with the one investigator said that it was like gibberish. So they have him praising Nidal Hassan, the Fort Hood shooter, talking about Osama bin Laden and Anwar al-Awlaki. So they have at least that he was inspired. And now the real work begins. Was he talking directly to someone? And that's where investigators have had a hard time in the past, linking some of these suspects to ISIS in some cases, or Al-Qaeda, perhaps in this case. That direct link, that's what they're looking for, to see if someone else was involved. Was he specifically directed by someone overseas to carry out this attack? And so that's what they're looking for now.
We've also heard eyewitness accounts, acquaintance accounts that he, after some international travel, both to Afghanistan and Pakistan, did come home, and in their minds, and again, these are the thoughts of people near him who had dealings with him. He seemed more anti-American and perhaps angrier after the travel. So obviously we're looking at the travel as well. And it's known that he spent time in Quetta, Pakistan. It's a Taliban stronghold. Got married there before returning to the United States. Questions now. Red flags did not seem to be raised here. He was not on any watch list. There was no travel restriction placed on him. Are those being addressed here as a part of this investigation?
Oh, yes. There are international contacts that law enforcement officials are using right now to dig into that aspect of this case. You talk about that region of Pakistan. If there is ever a place in the world that is anti-American, it is that region. And so, yeah, they're looking there to see if there are any contacts that he may have made there that encourage this type of activity, and also the wife.
Yep.
Okay, we now know, we confirmed this yesterday, that she's in Dubai, and there has been contact between the wife and investigators, and she is cooperating. Now, what's interesting there, the sources that I spoke with are saying, don't necessarily paint his wife as someone who is a prime player in this plot, okay? What I think they're trying to do, similar to what we saw happen in Orlando with the wife of that shooter, is they want her talking, okay? They want to develop a relationship with her. You know why? They want to fill in some of the gaps here. Who was he talking to? Who did you see him with? Who did you see? What did he tell you? So they want to keep the lines of communications open. They don't want her becoming more of an adversary rather than someone who can help them figure out what happened here.
There was also a report of a domestic disturbance involving Rahami and other family members. During that disturbance, it was said that police witnessed his father calling him a terrorist. His father has since recanted. And so as his father has recanted that, a rather damning accusation, if in fact made, there have been questions about Rahami's participation and cooperation of his own with regard to this investigation. Do we know where that stands right now?
Well, you talk about that dispute with the father. Okay, let's go back to that issue. That was in 2014. The father says he notified law enforcement, he notified the FBI. Well, the FBI is saying we were actually notified by, here's how it started. It started with a neighbor. Kind of gets confusing. Started with a neighbor who went to local police. Local police then contacted the FBI. So it's not necessarily the way that the father says it happened. But the FBI did look into the father saying, he's a terrorist. Okay, so they looked into it. They interviewed the father. The father recanted. All right? They couldn't interview the suspect because he was locked up at the time on an unrelated stabbing charge. Okay, so they didn't interview him. They say, the FBI says, it did its due diligence and found that there was nothing that we could charge him with. We couldn't go forward. So the case was essentially dropped.
Lots still to get to here, and again, we know you'll be on top of it all. Jeff Pegues, we do appreciate it.